You're listening to 69.9 WTFF The Bear. Up next, Parsing the Truth with Hat. Welcome back to Parsing the Truth, the only show that's been scientifically proven to bring you the facts. I'm your host, Hat. Today's claim to verify is that there's a massive sword sticking out of the Silithus Desert. We have a special guest joining us today, Gary Hubert, head of Department of Infrastructure in Orgrimmar. Gary, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Gary, I'm just going to jump straight into the big question. Is there a giant sword sticking out of the ground in Silithus?
No, absolutely not. In fact, it's a preposterous thing to even ask.
Now, if it's as preposterous as you say, why are people up in arms complaining about it?
Well, Hat, it's hard to say. I imagine there are a few conspiracy loons out there spreading this false narrative. And unfortunately, they've managed to convince a large portion of the population with their lies. Then maybe someone saw a claymore leaning up against a building and exaggerated its size a bit. These weapons they're making these days are getting rather large.
Interesting. And that's definitely true about weapon sizes increasing. Feels like maybe some blacksmiths have been compensating a bit. Now let me ask you this. Have you personally been down to Silithus recently?
No, I have not. I've been far too busy with the Great Barrens Highway project. But I have sent my secretary down there, and they told me in person that there was no sword. They went right up to Cenarian Hold and talked to the residents, none of whom had any knowledge of a giant sword that was supposedly stabbing right through the center of their town.
Well, it's hard to argue with that. Let's take some calls. Hello, Rageaholic, you're on the air. Do you have any questions for Gary today?
Yeah, I got a question for him. What the f*** are you smoking? I own land in Dustwallow Marsh, and I can see the sword from here. It's an eyesore, and it's tanking my property value. Now I want to know what you guys are going to do about it.
Now, Rageaholic, was it?
Yeah.
Now, Rageaholic, I understand your dilemma, but there's nothing to be done. There is no sword. I hate to break it to you, but you bought land in a swamp. That's never going to appreciate in value, and you can't go around blaming everyone else for your mistakes.
Fuck you, Gary. I'm gonna...
Whoa there, fellas. Remember, we got to keep this PG-13 for the advertisers. Anyways, next caller, Star Luna, you're on Parsing the Truth. Do you have any questions for Gary?
Yeah, I don't know about some big sword or whatever. I just want to know what the government's doing about this fire on Teldrassil. This shit's been burning for years now. Are you ever gonna put it out?
Well, that's not really my department. I'd suggest you take that up with the Department of Fire Safety.
What a load of BS. I went to them and they told me to contact your department. And now I'm in this never-ending loop getting tossed around your government like a bad memo. We haven't seen the sun in Darkshore for over 3 years. It's smoke every day. We can't even let our children play outside anymore. Tell me, Gary, what are you going to do about that?
Like I said, that's not really my department. I'm sorry, but all I can do is suggest bringing it up at the next town hall meeting.
Alright, folks, let's try to stay on the subject for today, which is the alleged sword in Silithus. Next caller, Chadzilla, you're on the air.
Hey, Hat. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I just want to get this out there. I think this whole situation is a ploy by the Shadow Cabal.
Oh? Please explain.
Yeah, the Shadow Cabal is pulling all the strings here. The sword is just a huge diversion to distract the masses. While everyone's arguing over it, nobody seems to have noticed that the price of transmogging your gear has skyrocketed. It's up 15% over last year. Why is no one talking about this?
Gary, do you have a response to this?
Yes, I do. Now, Chad, I hate to break it to you, but there is no Shadow Cabal. It's just a bunch of fake news propagated by conspiracy nuts seeking attention, just like this sword situation.
Well, then how do you explain the transmog prices?
It's just inflation, Chad. It's happening everywhere. You gotta remember, we're in a recession. Now, you can blame the gold farmers or whoever you want for that, but the fact of the matter is, the government isn't hiding anything from the people. We're here to help you, not hurt you.
Yeah, sure. We'll see about that. Just remember, I've got my eye on you, Gary Hubert.
Well, those are some interesting theories we got there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with Gary answering your questions here on Parsing the Truth. You're listening to 69.9 WTFF The Bear, bringing you the hottest hits and the hardest news.
Hey you, are you holding your raid back? Bottom of the chart DPS? Dying to fire? Then you need BDE. That's right, Blaze Diamond Energy. With 7 delicious flavors and 150 grams of caffeine in each can, you'll go from basement dweller to pro gamer with the first swig. Orange parses? No problem. World first?
Piece of cake. Lightning fast reaction times. Crits critting harder. With the power of Blaze Diamond Energy, there's no limit to the heights you'll reach. BDE. Taste it by the mouthful.
Disclaimer. Blaze Diamond Energy does not guarantee your success. Failure to perform your standard rotation or move out of fire is the sole responsibility of the raider. BDE and its associates hold no responsibility for misuse or abuse of their products. Please drink responsibly.
And we're back with Parsing the Truth. Joining me today is Gary Hubert, head of the Department of Infrastructure in Orgrimmar. And we're talking about an alleged giant sword in Silithus. Let's take another caller. Eats Poozy, you're on the air.
Hey, Hat. Hey, Gary. I just want to say, Gary's right.
Thank you. Finally, someone with some sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's no way a sword that big could be there.
That's right.
I mean, who would have put it there? The government? Yeah, right. Like they have the funds to do that with all the budget cuts.
Yeah. And now we have people claiming that a giant man in the sky stabbed Azeroth before disappearing in a flash of light.
Yeah, what a load of BS. Who is this man, and why would he stab his sword into a barren wasteland then disappear? It just doesn't make any sense.
All right, Eats. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Hat.
Thanks, Eats. All right. Looks like we got time for one more caller. Per Kitty, you're on Parsing the Truth.
Hey, Hat. I just want to say the sword is definitely here. I'm standing right in front of it.
You are now. Can you please describe it?
Yeah, it's huge and glowing red.
How big is it exactly?
It's gotta be at least 1,000 feet tall.
1,000 feet? That's ridiculous. Do you even hear yourself? My assistant, my personal assistant, was down there not 2 weeks ago and confirmed Silithus is the same as it's always been.
Then your assistant is either lying or that dumbass is time walking.
Time walking? Every word that comes out of your mouth is even more outlandish than the last. There is no sword. Period.
Whatever, Gary. You keep your head buried in the ground.
Well, that's a lot of opinions we've heard today from both sides. Gary, do you have any last things you want to throw into this?
Yeah. Yes, I do. And I'll say this. You gotta look at the situation with reason and logic. If there was a giant sword in Silithus, how did it get there? What is it doing there? Why would the government cover it up? If you start asking these basic questions, you start to realize that the whole narrative backing its existence crumbles to dust. There's just no logic or reasoning behind it. It's quite literally unfeasible.
Well, thank you for your time, Gary.
It's been a pleasure, Hat. Thanks for having me on.
So the claim was, there is a massive sword sticking out of the Silithus desert. When we plug this into the truth parser, we score in the 26th percentile. There are many arguments from both sides, but at the end of the day, I gotta lean a bit towards Gary on this one. It just seems a bit out there. Maybe this is one of those rare cases of mass hysteria, I'm not sure. But that's all the time we have today. I've been your host, Hat, and I'll see you next time on Parsing the Truth. You're listening to 69.9 WTFF The Bear. That was Parsing the Truth with Hat. Up next is 4 hours of non-stop Outlands rock.